that's me. You're probably wondering how I got myself into this situation. Sitting on the floor in my room, bashing my head into the wall, constantly running a podcast out of my basement. Honestly, same. Never really found the answer to that. But if I had to guess, it all started with a decision I made roughly about 6 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. I am your host, DJ Charlie Brown, and today we are back for another episode breaking down the 2026 MLB season. It's crazy to think we're already halfway through summer at this point. Maybe it's just me, but I honestly struggled to even get these notes together for you guys, which has been the story of this season as it's been much of a blur. Maybe it's just because the Twins have sucked the life out of me for the longest time or the lockout incoming, but it just feels like it's going quicker than usual. Speaking of the lockout, still looks like it's trending to actually happen. Owners and players are still at odds over the salary cap along with the other litany of issues, and it's likely not going to get solved anytime soon by the December deadline. In the meantime, I will do my best to break down the insanity that is this baseball year. So, let's take a look at everything, shall we? The Baltimore Orioles. This is not exactly what I had in mind for being your get-right year, Baltimore. At this rate, you're only reinforcing the narratives of the 2010s and how this place is where players go to die. At the very least, it isn't a hitting issue this time around. Gunnar Henderson, Colby Mayo, Jeremiah Jackson, and more of their homegrown stars are back to their normal selves. The likes of Taylor Ward, Pete Alonso, and Leody Taveras are all having stellar campaigns in Charm City. Heck, even Adley Rutschman has managed to find some of his old form that made him a number one overall pick when the injuries are not destroying him. So why are they not leading the AL East is your question. The way they are approaching the pitching staff is the reason why. It's my approach to how I roast a marshmallow. Burn it to the core. When the best guy in the starting rotation is a journeyman in Brandon Young with an ERA of 3.18, it's dire. Nearly every option has dealt with some form of a blow physically or performance-wise. Zach Eflin, injured. Dean Kramer, injured. Shane Baz, O's fans cringe every time he takes the bump. Felix Bautista, Chris Bassett, Trevor Rogers, nearly everyone you can shake a stick at. This has resulted in Baltimore unable to ascend higher in the standings despite a lethal offense. If they seriously want to save this season, they need pitching, and they need it fast. I recommend making some calls, boys. Get whatever arms you can, otherwise you're going nowhere anytime soon. The Boston Red Sox. Okay, Boston, you got some serious explaining to do about what this season has dissolved into. You make all those moves in the offseason, and this is the season you guys end up having? A 16-19 record in the first few months is borderline disastrous. Not to mention a sweep by your hated rival to go with it. You did sweep them in the Bronx, true, but that doesn't matter when you split with them. The Red Sox are a massive tire fire that seemingly has gone from championship expectations to bottom of the American League. Only one word can describe their offense. Mendoza. They have 9 guys with a batting average of .250 or lower. 9. The best batter on their roster is Wilyer Abreu, Masataka Yoshida, and Wilson Contreras. Jarren Duran has been having one of the worst seasons of his young career at this point. By the way, off topic, I do apologize for what the fans did back to you in April. It was uncalled for. It doesn't represent what we stand for here in Minnesota, and giving the bird was justified. It also isn't helping that the pitching decided to cave in on itself to go with it. Sonny Gray and Ranger Suarez were brought in to solidify the rotation to mix results. However, now the issue is Brian Bayo and Garrett Crochet have outright combusted on the mound. At the very least, the bullpen is still in one piece, I guess, and Aroldis Chapman's his usual self, but it's hard to close out games when they're down 6 to 8 runs. The only positive I can find this year where they were good with their defensive metrics, the team is still very young, and the entirety of Scotland invaded Fenway during the World Cup. As for Bostonians, it is well known that their patience can be only tolerated for so long considering their expectations. They want championships, and if they don't get those, that's when mutiny arises. Change was needed, and they got it. So, Alex Cora, you're officially done as skipper. While the team has been somewhat better in terms of vibes, Craig Breslow is on a seat of searing coals right now. This season is a disaster, and it might be on a collision course soon. I would not grow attached to some of the names up in Boston right now. A teardown might be inbound. Again. The New York Yankees. I figured as much you guys would still be here given the roster that you guys have at your disposal. Though honestly, I'm a little more skeptical on the Bronx spotters. And no, it's not just me being a pissy division rival. The issue isn't with their starting pitching, as it's one of the best in baseball. Cam Schlichter, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, and Will Warren have made up a lights-out unit that puts hitters on the struggle bus every time they match up. Same goes for the bullpen, which has its slip-ups, but definitely has come around with Bednar and Cruz as the backbone. The real thing that makes me raise my eyebrows is the offensive lineup the Yankees have. While Judge is still his usual self, along with Ben Rice having a career year, it's mostly Goldschmidt, Bellinger, and Caballero. Most of the other core tenants have been rather pedestrian, including Anthony Volpe, until he was bullied to the minors for a factory reset. Regardless, expect the Bronx to do the following steps going forward. Make some savvy moves to improve at the deadline. Play lights out through August. Have a pedestrian September, and then proceed to flame out in the playoffs at some point or another. It's not a matter of if, but when it happens is the question. Yankee fans can hate me all they want, but they know deep down I'm right. By the way, off topic hold on one sec. I got something gloating to do. Ha ha ha! You lost to us, you bums! Alright, fine. I'll take my lumps and go with it. Moving over to the Tampa Bay Rays. If there was one positive that came from the Stuart Sternberg era of the Rays, it was the gobs of talent they were stockpiling over the years. Turns out a lot of the guys they had were really good, and it's helping get the Patrick Zapinski era off on the right foot. The hitting core of Caminero, Aranda, and Simpson is thriving with the additions of Cedric Mullins bouncing back with other pieces as well. Yandy Diaz is having a career season with a batting average that's been well over 290 entering the Allstar break. However, the thing that's been more surprising is their pitching development, what I can only be described as mutant healing at this point. McClanahan has found his old form after injuries. Drew Rasmussen is just as elite as ever. Heck, even a journeyman and Nick Martinez just showed up and started dealing like an ace. Complemented by a very solid bullpen, the Rays have been one of the most well-oiled machines in all of baseball this year. While they are currently in the driver's seat, the Bronx and more are nipping at their tails entering the deadline. I do think they are going to make some moves, and they're going to end up buying, but it's very interesting to see. You're going to need some reinforcements, Rays, so I recommend putting on your Sunday best, boys. You guys are going on a shopping spree! The Toronto Blue Jays. For God's sake, Toronto, you had one job and you seem to have messed it up. Fresh off of making the World Series, the Jays fell into the deadly vice this season that has them trapped in maple syrup. Inconsistency and underachieving. Small win streaks undone by major losing skids that are inescapable on a given night. It's a shame, too, because it seems like hitting has been very solid this year. Ernie Clements is having a career season and playing some of the best baseball of his career right now. Kazuma Okamoto has been everything as advertised then coming over. The likes of Vladdy, Varsho, Jimenez, and Springer are all potent. However, the one thing they really need to fix up is the starting pitching. Dylan Cease has been alright and as advertised, but everything else is very chaotic. Kevin Gausman's erratic. Trey Savage is in a sophomore slump. Jose Barrios needed Tommy John, and Max Scherzer, as much as I love to do, and he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, he's a shell of himself. It's also a shame, too, because they have a really good bullpen with guys like Anthony Macco, Luzardo Estrada, and Louis Varland all being lockdowns. There is still time to fix it if you're the Blue Jays, but they got to act quickly. Even a game back of the wild card, it's not safe for long, especially in the mosh pit of the AL. You already took enough L's this year, boys. You do not want another, don't you? The Chicago White Sox. Okay, I'll admit you guys are making me eat crow from my previous take. But could you blame me, though? It was based off past reputation, and you guys have been known for this for a good bit. With the AL being a gigantic cluster, it shocks everyone in the world that Southside is one of the more respectable teams. Their run of form in late April and March shows it. To be fair, it was probably going to happen eventually that they started to trend up. Make way for Munetaka Murakami, the newest savior of the Sox from the land of the rising sun. I'm not joking, that dude is a straight-up beast. Many people questioned if Chicago would ruin him, but so far it seems like that he isn't going to be a victim of that anytime soon. Along with him, Chase Meredith has turned into a rising star, with Miguel Vargas continuing to rake at the plate. Heck, even Andrew Benintendi is somehow playing up to a starter, for which is rare from him at most times. The pitching staff still needs some work, though, but the likes of Sean Burke and Davis Martin are young studs who could help going forward. Same goes for the bullpen, which is one of the more unique units in all of the league. While the vibes in Southside are incredibly high and they deserve their moment after the past few years of sucking, I recommend to take a deep breath and chill. A lot of the pieces are playing over their heads, and it's entirely possible that they crumble down the stretch. They have the potential to make a wild card game and possibly win the Central at this rate, but might need to rethink the deadline on a few instances depending on options. However, I will say I'm proud of you in a weird way, Chicago. You're finally getting your way out of the gutter. Even if we're rivals, it's nice to see once in a while. The Cleveland Guardians. Why am I not shocked you guys are somehow still in the running despite spending Jack and relying on the powers of friendship? They were in the driver's seat at one point because the division was a joke, up until the White Sox escaped the basement. However, they have tapered off a bit and are entering the dog days and have been really slipping for some reason. At the very least, you finally got Jose Ramirez some help instead of asking him to carry the entire offense. Chase DeLauders, Brian Rocio, Travis Bazzana, Kyle Manzano, and Angel Martinez are looking like very solid players. Heck, even Austin Hedges is having a career season at the plate as well. However, the trade-off is Stephen Kwan might be hitting the washed category. However, the issue with this group is mostly the mound on the mound most games. For every Parker Mesnick performance, it's followed by Slade Sassoni and Joey Cantillo serving up cookies to the opposition. That's not even getting into whatever passes for their bullpen that is dangerously close to playing with fire most times. They even did a few games ago against the Twins. Can Cleveland make the playoffs? Sure. But the question is, if they want to go deep, it's going to require more. Might want to start finding some extra pennies, my friends out in Cleveland. Pitchers don't come cheap these days, unfortunately. The Detroit Tigers. Tigers, what the blue hell happened to you guys this time around? Because you didn't wait till August to collapse. You chose to start it in May. A record of 6-22 for a team many had penciled in as an ALCS dark horse team, from what I was told. Many people point to Skubal's injury as part of it, but the problem is it is a more deep-rooted issue than that. Their offense is Riley Green, Dylan the Dingler, Colt Keith, and Kevin McGoingle being the front runner for AL Rookie of the Year. Spencer Torkelson is a strikeout magnet. Zach McKinstry is nosedived. Javi Baez, nowhere near what he replicated last year. It gets worse when their pitching is prolapsed with the ailments to arms and performance. On top of Skubal, the Tigers have lost the likes of Reese Olson, Bailey Horn, Brad Hunter, Jackson Jobe, Justin Verlander, Chase Mize, Henley Jansen, and more to extensive IL stints. Meanwhile, the likes of Framber Valdez and Keter Montero had some really bad outings as of the rate. Well, the good news is that Skubal is back and more are slated to come back as well. I have concerns they might be missing out. Their second half is brutal with the teams that are slated to play against, and I'm not even sure if a miracle deadline is going to save them, especially since wildfire spreading about the idea of Skubal being traded at the deadline. Considering his arbitration, you can't blame him or the Tigers. I would fasten in your seatbelts, Detroit. This ride is going to be very rocky. Just, if I'm asking for you, don't screw it up. This is Verlander's last season, dang it. Don't waste that man's career enough already like you have. The Kansas City Royals. Weren't you guys supposed to be done with this crap by now? It's been 6 years since the old guard has been purged and 2 since the wild card loss. Ever since then, it seems to be getting worse and worse for Kansas City, who now take the White Sox mantle as the basement dwellers of the AL Central. The only guys who seem to care on this team are Bobby Witt Jr., Maikel Garcia, and Michael Massey. Jonathan India, Kyle Isabel, and Vinny Pasquantino are all out due to injuries on most occasions. All the while, Isaac Cullen, Carter Jensen, and Lane Thomas can't hit the broadside of a barn most times. Even Salvador Perez has fallen off the face of the earth and lost his power he once had. The pitching has also been another liability, with Walker having to carry the rotation with Lugo, Reagans, and Bubic spending time on the IL, and Noah Cameron in a sophomore slump. Also, their bullpen can't hold on to one-run leads. I do not know why. For reference, Lucas Erceg has more blown leads himself than the entire Tigers bullpen. Panic has officially started to creep in for the Royals, and for very good reasons. Last year can be excused for a down year, but in no way should this team be bad anymore. Better get it fixed soon, Royals. The alternative is Bobby Witt Jr. forcing your hand and preventing you from ruining his career. Get it to it. All right, kiddies. It's time for the main event. The Minnesota Twins. Okay, I'll give them a little credit. While there are still several organizational issues and fan attendance has been poor even in the peak months, they actually are not as bad as I thought. What many people thought this to be a tank year and fully bottom out, the Twins have actually been playing very well, if you exclude their terrible April stretch. Byron Buxton is not only having a great campaign, he's actually getting help from the young guys like Luke Keeschel, Brooks Lee, Austin Martin, and more. Heck, even Ryan Jeffers, of all people, is having a career season after previous struggles. Joe Ryan, despite being in rumors of being traded, is getting help with Taj Bradley breaking out, Bailey Ober finding somewhat of his confidence again, and Mick Abel showing signs of progress when he isn't destroyed by injury. However, this is about it when it comes to the positives. Royce Lewis needed a confidence reset demotion. While he's back, it doesn't help. Matt Wallner is out on the brink of getting sent to Double-A at this rate. Simeon Woods Richardson ran himself off the mound, and they have arguably one of the worst base bullpens in baseball. By God, it's almost like trading your star reliever, his backup, and the guy's backup last year. Like, you cut corners on him, cost him dearly! Sorry. In all honesty, I'm just thankful it's not as worse as what we expected. Heck, we even got a special reward of beating the Yankees in the Bronx for the first time since 2014. Even if the on-field product has improved slightly, my thoughts on ownership are still against them and wanting them out ASAP. They currently have the fourth worst attendance figures among all MLB. They barely increased when the Wild and Wolves ended. The Pohlads still can't beat the cheap allegations with the power going out on the day of the home opener. Tom Pohlad was appointed as CEO, and all he has been known for so far is more tone-deaf comments and getting caught on camera heckling a fan. Yes, it was their fault. Doesn't mean it's a bad look for a fan base already upset. It gets even worse when you see some of the terrible marketing tactics that he's doing instead of spending money on, players to help improve this team. A post-game wrestling show, promoting the MLB TV subscription that fans are already against, rally cheerleaders. Look, call me sexist all you want, but rarely have cheerleaders ever been used in baseball. I'm just saying. Even some of the fans are sick of it, and so we're getting tossed for sell the team chants as they wave their shirts in the air, which, by the way, respect for the Edina chants, because they're cake eaters. No denying it. Look, all I wanted was to get through this year as quickly as possible, just take the lumps, get to a lockout, and have no more headaches for a good bit while we try and sort this out. But sadly, they chose to wake up and taunt me to start grinding my axe again as usual. Look, I'm at the point where not only do I plan on buying a bottle of champagne to celebrate the day we're free of these guys, I will personally volunteer to drive them to MSP for their flights to spend the rest of the days in Florida or Cancun or something. See, I have no issue with being critical of them because clearly they have shown no care for the fans. Like, respect and trust is a two-way street, something the Pohlads have violated time and time again, and it's at the point where only one way this is getting solved. And I'm sure you all can read what the message is on this banner. In the meantime, I look forward to watching us trade Josh Bell to a playoff team, everyone and their mother calling about Joe Ryan, and praying to the Lord Byron Buxton isn't serious and doesn't force his way out. Yes, I know he said he doesn't want to leave, but still, you never know what happens. Von Lackey, while I am very excited for you to come here, I am also very sorry you have to get thrown into this fire. Dear God, I miss when we had a real baseball team in this city. Feels like it's 3 years ago, but still feels like an eternity. Now that's out of the way, we move on to the rest of the teams. The Houston Astros. Yeah, I think it's safe to say the window for Houston has officially closed on them. It's not even the whole team is bad hitting-wise. Yordan is still as dominant as ever. Christian Walker and Isaac Paredes are outstanding. Even Cam Smith has emerged as a stud. I would bring up Carlos Correa, but he was sadly struck down on the opening charge. Out for the season and might be reaching the end of his illustrious career. So what's killing them, you ask? They're pitching. Every arm has 2 modes, injured or volatile. Ronel Blanco, Christian Javier, Lance McCullers, Brandon Walters, Hunter Brown, and more have all been out for extended periods of time. When Matt Burrows is your best starter with an ERA over 5, you know it's dire. Which is a shame, too, because their bullpen is arguably loaded and helping them seal the few games they have to their name. Problem is, does Houston really think they can make a run at this point? They simply can't rely on Yordan to carry the team like previous years, and they don't have the core to keep up production. Every chance and momentum gets cut short with very inconsistent play. If I'm Houston, the dreaded S word is starting to rear its head. Sure, they can make the wild card, but that's meaningless when they aren't competing. Clock's ticking, Astros. Get to it or get off the can. The LA Angels. I'm supposed to be shocked the Angels are here at this point and being terrible. I doubt these guys could solve a knock-knock joke with how predictable they are. They had a nice run of form in March and April, deluding their fans into thinking this wouldn't be as bad as they thought. But then came the last week of April. 2 separate streaks of 6+ losses that sent them back to the basement of the AL. Nothing but death and despair in the hot Anaheim sky. It is true that Nolan Channel has taken a massive step forward. Zach Neto is one of the most underrated players in the game, and more youth has shown up on the hitting court side. However, the catch is in the form of Mike Trout. Don't worry, he's not being destroyed by injury this time, aside from once so far that took him out for a good bit. He is sadly regressing due to the age from what he once was. Afterwards, everyone else is nearly black hole levels of bad in the lineup. The one thing that's not surprising is their pitching staff being a raging dumpster fire outside of Jose Soriano and Reed Detmers. Yusei Kikuchi and Ben Joyce have been dealing with injuries. Jack Kanakowicz has also dealt with them and been ruined altogether. That's not even getting into their bullpen, which sits bottom 5 in nearly every category. Their organization is a circus overshadowed by the meddling man at the top of the organization. Artie Moreno has essentially wasted Trout's career at this point and made the team irrelevant under his watch. While the youth are something to hold on to, do you think they're going to capitalize it? To me, that answer is no. Sell the team, Artie, or at the very minimum, allow Trout to go play real baseball before he has to inevitably hang it up. The homeless A's. Wait, you're not terrible? You were even leading the AL East until recently? Huh. Well, first time for anything. To be fair, all those years sandbagging in Oakland did have one perk to them. It helped them to get some can't-miss prospects in the draft. Jacob Wilson is becoming a legit superstar. Shea Langeliers, a battery made with both hitting and defensive prowess. Zach Geloff and Tyler Soderstrom, defensive wizards who can hit well. Hell, even Jack McNeil got his swagger back and confidence after escaping the clutches of the Mets. However, even with the young youth breaking out in the hitting ranks, the A's have a dreaded weakness in their pitching. When Aaron Savale in 2026 is your best ERA, you know that's a problem with the rotation. Aside from him, the bullpen is a very mixed bag depending on who is going out there. Even if they somehow control their own destiny, I doubt they will be able to for much more longer. Their recent skids have proven pretty much so. Ownership doesn't see too gung-ho on adding right now with the move to Vegas imminent, and I doubt hosting a playoff game in the Sacramento Sun is a priority for them. I might want to embrace for an inevitable collapse, A's. John Fisher, like many baseball lovers, is getting ready to break hearts all over again. Hooray! The Seattle Mariners. You guys were dangerously close to falling back into that vice, but finally got it together. Good. Now keep it like this. I did not want to have to come back here and talk about how you were grossly underachieving like seasons past. Seattle once again remains steady as one of the best teams in the American, even though their record is a bit subpar. The likes of Randy Arozarena, Josh Naylor, J-Rod, and more continue to launch balls into the bleachers of T-Mobile Park. Luke Raleigh is having a career year, and Cole Young has become the next rookie sensation from their system. However, they need to have a talk about Big Dumper. He went from MVP candidate to barely hitting this year. When Mitch Garver and Johnny Pareda are leading you in hits, that's a problem. The good news is that their rotation is finally starting to pick up, and the bullpen continues to be a rock-solid unit. While they currently lead, there is a certain team of vagabonds from California slowly nipping at their heels. Especially given past seasons and their history with that team, it is incredibly important to keep focused no matter what. You're going to need some reinforcements to the pen and a right-handed bat if you want to try and get back over the hump. Get to it, Seattle. Please, don't let us down again. The Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers being mediocre. What else is new at this point? To be fair, they actually are one of the better performing teams in the AL, despite being below 500. However, it's in spite of all the issues slowly starting to mount for the roster. The offense success, however, has come through the likes of Josh Young, Ezekiel Duran, and Jake Berger. Evan Carter is also showing flashes of greatness that have made him one of the top selections. Corey Seager and Wyatt Langford might be best to look away with those two. Same goes for a majority of everyone else who has barely touched over the Mendoza line. However, their true downfall is within their starting pitching. While DeGrom has been his usual self, everything else has been hanging by a thread. Evaldi tends to be erratic. Jake Leiter has been all but ruined, and Jordan Montgomery has been destroyed by injuries. Same goes for the bullpen, which is also leaking fuel as we speak. While it is true they can easily turn it around, I wonder if it's too late and if they have the ability to do it. It's going to take a massive heater to get to the dance, and I don't know if they have anything special at this point. Sadly, I don't think the Rangers are going to get much farther if this keeps up. The once great foundations they had is shaky and about to be swallowed into the Texas Gulf. The Atlanta Braves. So it turns out that a new voice in the dugout was just what the doctor ordered for Atlanta. Under Walt Weiss, the Braves are once again back to one of the better teams in the National League and finding that old form. While not a juggernaut, they certainly are a squad that has the ability to go far if things go their way. Most of the usual key components like Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, and Ronald Acuna are still making up the backbone of this team. Michael Harris is having the season of his life and showing the Braves why they still covet him going forward. Even the unsung performances of Drake Baldwin and Marcio Dubois have been noteworthy. However, there's a slight problem approaching them in the distance. It's their pitching. The rotation is literally just Chris Sale. I'm not joking. At 37 years old, the dude is still pitching at a Cy Young level. It's incredible. However, everything else is reaching critical levels of alarming at this rate. Bryce Elder has fallen off a map. Spencer Strider is dealing with the same issues along with injuries galore, and nearly every other option they've had has ended poorly. Even the bullpen has been falling to the injury bug with Robert Suarez, Danny Young, and more falling for long stretches. While they still sit comfortably as the favorite to win the pillow fight known as the NL East, they need to get ready. You get to it, Braves, especially with these guys hot on your trail. The Miami Marlins. So it turns out that the Marlins didn't get the memo about how they were just supposed to be irrelevant this year. In fact, they've been one of the hottest teams throughout June entering July. Turns out a lot of the youth the Marlins have in store is really good at the major league level. Who would have thought? Well, welcome to the Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards show. The two infielders who seemingly just can't stop hitting even if you told them to. Complemented with Kyle Stowers, rising star Javier San Jose, and Liam Hicks having a career season, it makes for a very well rounded unit. Then we get to their rotation, which has a new ace in the hole. Brace yourselves because I'm going to drop about a whole lot of glaze and be insufferable for a minute. Meet their newest ace in the hole, Mad Max Myers, the pride of Woodbury, Minnesota. A local boy who is showing the world this state is not cursed by the Polad's ineptitude and produces the finest baseball talents imaginable. A 2.6 ERA, 107 strikeouts, the highest WAR of any pitcher on the Marlins right now. All the while, he is the look of the Minnesota boys. Look at this man. He's got it all. The hair, the mustache, you name it. All a good old Minnesota boy who's going to have the All-Star game of his life. And wait, hold on a sec. What is that? What do you mean he's not playing? What? Who's he? He has a start? Who's he got to start against? Cleveland? Okay, I guess. Whatever. Okay, never mind. He's not playing. Bummer. My Minnesota supremacy campaign will have to be put on pause for the time being. Sorry for the tangent. As for the rest of the rotation, tends to be very hit or miss, but they make up for it with a very strong bullpen. While part of me questions if the ownership wants to make a run for it, people are starting to take notice. With a lot of teams in Miami down horrendously, a playoff game would help out with that. Don't disappoint, Marlins. You have done enough of that cycle in this cycle already. Come on, we need you boys to be the spoilers, dang it! Oh God, the New York Mets. Just when they thought it was over, the Mets find a way to bring out even more hilarity for them to enjoy. The only solace for Queens is the Knicks made the finals, offering them an alternative than watching this again. They lost 12 straight games back in April and seemingly have been dead all year. The only thing the Mets have done this season is reinforce their meme status tenfold, and I'm not even joking. Juan Soto has his bat, but it comes with injuries left and right, errors defensively in the field, and rumors of him lacking leadership for being one of the highest paid players in baseball. Bo Bichette and Marcus Semien have been awful with bad hitting and terrible defense as well. When their best consistent hitter is a rookie named Carson Benyei, you know the lineup is bad. It's getting worse knowing that the pitching has caved in on itself once for multiple reasons. Nolan McLean has regressed hard. Clay Holmes landed on the 60-day IL, and Kodai Senga has been all but ruined up in Queens. That's not getting into the fact they entrusted Devin Williams and Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen. It's 2026. Why are we not shocked they have imploded? It should have happened last year, but Carlos Mendoza was finally sacked after months of delusion. All the while, David Stearns stays on to probably jackknife the organization further at this point. At one point, the world thought that Cohen would be the salvation for this team, and all that he's brought is another reign of the goddamn Wolpons. Now it just feels like the same thing with even more money being thrown around. But here's the thing, all it is for us in baseball is the hilarity. Meet the Mets, grab a broom and sweep the Mets. All right, fine, I'll stop singing before I get copyrighted. The Philadelphia Phillies. This has to be the year, right? Please, for your guys' sakes. Even for a massive free fall in April and having to send Rob Thompson to the guillotine, the Phillies once again control their destiny. Don Mattingly has stepped in and gotten Philly back to the dominant force they've been known for in the past few years. Bryce Harper is playing like one of the best players in baseball and someone battling for the NL MVP. Kyle Schwarber is leading the league in home runs by a decent margin and continues well into the All-Star break. Brandon Marsh is having a career season with more depth in the hitting ranks. The rotation is mostly Christopher Sanchez and the Zach Wheeler show, but hopefully Nola or Luzardo can get on a heater after their deadline. Their bullpen is also a lethal force with the legend of Yoan Duran aura-farming his entrance and throwing heat to close out games. While they are still closing in on Atlanta, they can't get complacent. The wild card is locked in barring a major collapse, but others are slowly starting to gain on them in the NL. I get ready to load up Philly. You're going to need to get all you can help, all the help you if you want to finish the fight this year. Please don't screw this up for your own sake. I know you're a Philly team, but at very least I tolerate you as opposed to the others. The Washington Nationals. The best way to summarize this season for the Nationals is to look at their series versus the Phillies from the 22nd to the 25th. Washington won the first game, but the 3 games after defined how their season is gone. 3 straight games where they had the lead in the top of the 9th, only to give up multiple runs in soul-crushing fashion. You can point to some of the positives with the young hitting core stepping forward and Foster Griffin coming out of nowhere, but it masks up a lot of the issues. The only guys with an OPS over 800 are Wood, Garcia, and Abrams. The pitching staff is decimated by injuries, and most of the options they are counting on to step in are nowhere what they need them to be. The bullpen is arguably one of the worst in the majors, and this is coming from a Twins fan. The end result is the Nationals being deadlocked into 4th place in the NL and likely being another season down the drain. At this point, I do not know what you're doing if you're Washington. Doing a reset post-2020 was supposed to help the Nats get back to the land of relevance. Ever since then, it's been like watching the team be stripped of everything that made them who they were the past few years. Washington, you better be thankful for 2019 or else you would be the poster child for MLB failure. I would brace yourself, boys. Something tells me it's going to get much worse when the deadline hits and only continue from here on. I'm sorry, guys. You don't deserve this. The Chicago Cubs. Thank God you at least aren't underachieving horrifically like I was fearing back at the start. While I still feel they should probably be leading the division, being well over 500 and comfortably in the wild card slot is a good start for now. It tends to happen when you spend money on talent and have a great scouting, unlike a lot of franchises. Speaking of talent, PCA. That man alone has been the driving force for them this season with hits, dingers, and even a cycle as well to go with it. Add to it with Dansby Swanson hitting home runs like crazy alongside Bush, Suzuki, Happ, and Bregman, they can match up with anyone. While the pitching is still a little pedestrian with Shota Imanga not his usual self, Justin Steele now gone for the entire year, and Edwin Cabrera being a dud, it's fixable. Thankfully, their bullpen has become a well-oiled machine that keeps opponents at bay for the big boys to take charge. While they still remain hot, more is needed to get the Cubbies further in October. You need about 2 or 3 new arms for your rotation and have a few options to try and convince. Get to it, Cubbies. You might be our only hope to defeat the evil empire at this rate. The Cincinnati Reds. So when I said this team was expected to take a step back, I didn't mean crater into Lake Erie overnight. How do I put this lightly? The Reds are absolutely terrible. Tito Magic and a collapsing Mets team helped propel this team to a wild card last season. Turns out that was all there was for them. Their hitting is literally just Sal Stewart and Ellie De La Cruz. Spencer Steer, TJ Friedl, Matt McClain, and more have regressed in their hitting abilities. Their big buying Brian Hayes is either injured or unable to hit with any semblance of power. Chase Burns and Andrew Abbott are trying to carry this team to win, but the bats can't hit in the clutch at all. Not even to mention the rest of the rotation and bullpen is a gas can that can light everything that is on the brink of getting lit up every night. Not even in a year after they made a playoff appearance, fans are once again souring on Phil Castellini. His refusal to spend money on the team and tone-deaf comments have ruined one of the most historic organizations in baseball for years. Now fans are wondering if there is more spare parts are going to be traded, or even if Ellie De La Cruz is going to be around much longer. Sell the team, Castellini. I actually want to see the Reds play with some pride, unlike you, my friend. The Milwaukee Brewers. Once again, the NL Central runs through the brewing company up in Milwaukee like the past few years, especially as of late with the Cubbies on a bit of a cold streak. Speaking of which, what's not on a cold streak is this team's ability to hit, which is once a glaring issue for them. William Contreras has been one of the best hitters in the NL. Bryson Turang has been a defensive wizard with both the stick and glove. Even Jake Bauers is having a white-hot campaign. However, the true story for them this year is in the infamous man they call the Miz, Jacob Misiorowski. They didn't just find a diamond in the rough, they found the Hope Diamond itself. A sophomore campaign this league hasn't seen since Skeens bursted onto the scene. 1.4 2.5 ERA with 150 Ks and counting. While the rest of the rotation is very mixed depending on the day, the fact that Miz is playing like this is helping them greatly. Same goes for the bullpen, which has always been a calling card for years and locking down games left and right. However, the Brewers now know that all of this tends to be irrelevant at this time. They are sick and tired of being the bridesmaid in a stacked National League. So I recommend you boys get your ducks in a row and see what you can get at the deadline. We'll see you back in October. The Pittsburgh Pirates. Congratulations, Pirates! You've officially graduated from being absolutely terrible. You have now entered the stage many small teams are familiar with. Mid. At the very least, the Pirates can boast they can finally have an offense they've been missing for years. They paid a ton of money to Connor Griffin before his debut, and he's been excellent alongside Nick Gonzalez and Spencer Horwitz as youngsters. Brian Reynolds and Oneil Cruz are also having nice bounce backs as well, if you ignore the fact that Cruz still cannot play center field to save his life. Heck, even their big purchase of Ryan O'Hearn is paying off incredibly well with a solid season at first base. So you're now probably wondering, what gives? Why is this team still mediocre despite their one key issue being fixed? Remember the unworldly pitching staff they had the past few seasons? It's taken a sharp decline in quality. Paul Skeens had a really bad start, but has slowly gotten better, even if it hasn't been what we've been known to at this point. But somehow the Pirates can never get wins with him on the mound. It's incredibly weird. The problem is Mitch Keller and Bubba Chandler have outright started to implode on the mound. Jared Jones is either unable to stay healthy or giving up dingers at an alarming rate. Add to it with their volatile bullpen, and it gets the reason why the Pirates are simply mid. While there is time to fix this, Pittsburgh needs to start getting serious. They have the means to load up on the starting pitching at the deadline, so why not at least try and go for it? You're probably going to lose Skeens regardless, so why not see if you can't get him a playoff game before then? Also might help with get you some goodwill with a certain stadium lease still not resolved yet. Hint, hint. Get to it, Pirates. I can't with you anymore. The St. Louis Cardinals. Okay, I apologize for saying you guys were tanking. There, you happy? Turns out when you play with zero expectations, you end up finding results. Tends to happen when you have the youth movement beginning in St. Louis in full force. Jordan Walker, Alec Burleson, Ivan Herrera, and more of their prospects are finally showing signs of consistency and having career years. The much anticipated debut of J.J. Weatherholt has also brought a much-needed jolt to the team as well. However, the glaring weakness into their potent offense it's their pitching. Yeah, sadly, a rotation of Dustin May, Michael McGivney, and Mac Liberatore may not be sustainable long-term for you guys. Same goes for the bullpen that's lights out 1 minute and then watching blown leads the next. They could easily splurge at the deadline, but the question is it too soon? They have the ability to make the wild card, possibly, but they also have the ability to collapse with the guys playing over their heads. It's a give off or take off, but I will thank the Cardinals for one of the greatest trends started in baseball history. Tarps off. The legendary phenomenon that has finally made its way to the major league level in full force. Boys becoming men by congregating in the stands and letting the guts hang out while they twirl their shirts into their air like madmen. You may see this as stupid, but it's sacred to the sickos, baby. Deal with it, all right? And yes, okay, just follow me on it. It's cool to see. Moving over to our next team, the Arizona Diamondbacks. I mean, for a season where I had no expectations for the D-backs, I guess it's been okay. Arizona isn't necessarily good, but also not total garbage compared to the rest of the NL. A lot of good winning streaks throughout the first half, but also moments where they're getting swept by the Dodgers, Cubs, and Marlins. I mean, I shouldn't be shocked about that last one. The Marlins are really good. At the very least, the bats are very good this time around. Ketel Marte continues his dominance with the crew of Carroll, Moreno, and Perdomo. Nolan Arenado and Ilmaro Vargas, I apologize if I butchered that name, have rebounded after years of stagnation and playing up to par as well. However, the bigger issues with the D-backs lie in their pitching, like a lot of teams. Corbin Burns is missing time due to an elbow issue. Thankfully, Erod found his old form and is having the season that will instantly get him Cy Young votes this time around, but it also is dire with Gallen, Kelly, and Nelson also falling off the face of the earth. When Mike Soroka is the best second option you got, it's kind of bad. It's a shame, too, because the bullpen is very solid, aside from the fact Paul Sewell is still closing games and can't hold leads. Even if Arizona is just on the cusp of the wild card spot, I don't know if they can make a run. More importantly, is ownership going to be willing to spend at the deadline? While they have thankfully straightened out most of the stadium issues that they were facing and don't have to worry about a move to Utah, that doesn't mean they suddenly have interest in doing more with the on-field product. Hopefully I'm just being paranoid and they wisen up before it's too late. Arizona's already depressed with Cardinals football inbound. They need something at this point. The Colorado Rockies. At this point, you can just expect the Rockies to be a copy-paste with this point in my notes with how terrible they are. It's not even funny anymore. It's agitating. It's just plain sad. The only positive is that they aren't speed running their way to the worst record in baseball like last season. This team is essentially Hunter Goodman and Tyler Freeman in terms of hitting. And Tyler Freeman was out for a bit after someone threw at his head. Besides them, nearly every hitter can't hit consistently, both at Coors or on the road. What do you expect with a staff that has zero clue what they're doing in terms of hitting? It's to the point where you can't even blame the Coors effect on the pitchers. They simply just are lost and not being taught properly. Trying their best to pitch games, but watching falls go all the way into the bleachers and losing confidence in their abilities. Like many owners, the Monfort family needs to be on the chopping block for caring little about this team. It's worse when you know that Dick Monfort, the owner of the franchise, is the lead representative for the owners in the CBA talks. He is the last person who should really be handling these discussions given on how he runs the Rockies. I look forward to seeing him stumble into the lockout and wondering why it's happening in the first place at this point. In the meantime, Rockies, I'd embrace for pain, more pain, and continue to watch Ethan Holiday make his way to the show. Only another month until Broncos training camp, boys. Don't worry, you got this. The LA Dodgers. Once again, the entirety of the NL runs through the warlords of the sea known as the Dodgers. All the while, everyone in baseball cries about how they're ruining the game despite not breaking the rules. I hope you can understand the ruining in emphasis. Have you been watching Ohtani play this season? The contract LA gave him looks more and more like highway robbery with their return on investment each day. A season that has him running for both NL MVP and the Cy Young at this rate. If it's not him, it's Andy Pages having a breakout alongside the chorus of Freeman, Hernandez, Smith, and Tucker. Yes, he is finally healthy for some reason. However, the downside is Mookie Betts has been in a massive slump that's becoming difficult to break out of. Added to Shohei Ohtani and the already lethal Yoshinobu Yamamoto is Justin Robleski, Tyler Glasnow, and Blake Snell to give them 5 aces in their hand. However, like previous seasons, the Dodgers are forced to deal with injuries to primarily everyone in the bullpen. Evan Phillips, Broussard Gratterall, and Edwin Diaz with his trumpets have all been out for a good bit. Regardless, the Dodgers will still find a way to get more assets and play in the World Series. Sorry, baseball, there's no escaping the Dodgers' judgment. Just pray they show them mercy at this point. The San Diego Padres. Really, San Diego? You choose now of all times to grossly underachieve? I get that winning the NL is legit unobtainable at this point, but you would think you would have more fight to get into the wild card spot at this point. The only guy even close to producing consistently at the plate is Tatis. Jackson Merrill had an outstanding rookie season, only to suffer a steep decline at the plate. Manny Machado is being outproduced by Ty France in 2026. This isn't even mentioning how they seem to make fielding errors more often than I do fails in social conversations. Seriously, they blew a 6-0 lead to the Dodgers in the 9th. In terms of the pitching rotation, it's just Michael King. With majority of the staff unavailable due to injuries, they have put their chips on placeholders. Turns out the likes of Griffin Canning, Walker Buehler, and German Marquez are not what they once were at their peaks. The other alarm bell is their bullpen being exhausted due to having double duty with the rotation falling apart. Even with the possibility of a PTD bender, I fear the Padres are reaching the dreaded S word for their season, especially since the Seidler family finally managed to find a buyer for the club in the form of Jose Valencia and Kwanzaa Jones, private equity investors who have experience running the Chelsea soccer team. Also doesn't help that Preller has a depleted farm system, so it's very hard to make trades without getting fleeced. Padres, I pray you find the salvation right now and soon. Don't let the evil empire win. Don't let them win. The San Francisco Giants. I hate to admit it, but I kind of told you so, Giants. The way you were doing things was not working, and now it's finally coming to roost. A season which many had them penciled in as a dark horse playoff team, they chose to sink into the bay on the opening charge. They threw a massive bag at Tony Vitello to leave the college world, only to reinforce the narrative of how the NCAA and MLB are completely different worlds. You think I'm being too harsh? Look at the anemic unit known as the offense. Besides Jung-Ho Lee and Luis Arraez, nearly everyone has failed to produce in slugging metrics. Devers is a consistent strikeout magnet. Matt Chapman has seemingly lost his power overnight. Even Willy Adames can't make contact. The only highlight they seem to produce is the outfield doing unique celebrations that would get this video demonetized if I showed it. That's not even getting into the pitching staff made out of wet paper and a shaky bullpen. It is true that injuries have taken out a lot of the key components, but now performance is an issue. When a team's best starter is 27-year-old Brandon Roop with an ERA around 4, you know it's really bad. This season isn't just a disaster, it's an organizational mess. Buster Posey and Zach Manassian have real work to do considering, and actually, I honestly, you want my sense? Consider stripping it to the ground and rebuilding. You have the seventh highest payroll in baseball, and has resulted in you sitting down there with the Rockies, Mets, and Reds for how bad you are. Even if they fire Tony Vitello, it's not going to fix the massive hole and construction of the very flawed roster. I'm sorry, Giants, but if you truly want to see another World Series in this era, stop spending poorly and start doing this one thing. Embrace the suck. I know that sounds inappropriate out loud. Just, you get what I'm saying. Embrace the losing. All right, now it's everyone's favorite segment of the program called Charlie Making Terrible Predictions. Yay! All right, so looking at the American League, I still think the Rays will be the winners of the division. I know New York is hot on their tail, but I don't think the Yankees have the firepower to usurp the Rays. Central, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to say the White Sox take it. I know there are some teams nipping at their heels, but I think they're going to ultimately be the ones. West, I think, is the Mariners. I think the A's could slip into the wild card, but I think I don't think they're going to get it in time. As for the wild card spots, Yankees, Guardians, Rangers, in that order. So, yeah. Moving over to the National League, Dodgers will win the West. It's all but a given. Brewers are going to take the Central. And I think the Braves will take the East. I could see Philly jumping in, but arguably I think I think the Braves have the head start on them, so that's why. Wild card, I'm going to go with Cubs, Phillies, and actually, you know what? I'm going to say the Marlins. It's bold, but I think they'll be in there. So yeah, anyways, that's it for this episode. See you guys next time. Here back with more to come on Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. Peace!